And here we are, Captain Keith, live for the world of Facebook. Boating Tips Live, week 14. What do you say?
Say good afternoon. Thanks for joining, or we'll see if people do join.
We got Susie watching us, just got her boat back from service. Susie, thanks for all your support. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. Lisa, hello. Thanks for joining. We'll let a few more people tune in here. And let's see, what are we talking about today, Keith?
We're going to eventually get into the Women on Water classes that we do and talk about some of the other classes that are available throughout MarineMax, how to get into classes and where to go look for them and stuff like that.
Yeah, you've done your fair share of Women on Water classes. And that's another question that we're going to get into here today. It's, Women on Water, women in a lot of water. What do you have for the guys? Well, we'll get to that too, because there's a little bit of everything. But first things first, tell everybody where to join us. So I believe, if I'm correct, you can catch all these episodes on YouTube at, let's see, our YouTube channel is really complicated. Facebook at MarineMax Leisure, Instagram and YouTube at MarineMax Online, and Twitter at MarineMax. So that's where you can find us. I know a lot of people are working during this hour, but you can catch all these episodes later.
And speaking of Twitter, you can follow me now. I got on here a couple weeks ago.
Just on Twitter?
At Captain Keith Lake. The whole thing spelled out.
On Twitter too, huh?
Yep. So finally talking me into it.
I don't even have a Twitter. What do you tweet?
Just we did a couple videos the other day, just running along and looking at a chart plotter and just various things, using trim tabs, trimming engines, just as things go along. If I'm out moving a boat, if I think something that's worthwhile, I can throw up on there. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I need to get back on that again. I used to do it a lot more. Do anything cool last weekend? Any boat delivered? I know you guys have quite a big boat at your place right now, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. What'd you say? You kind of broke up.
You got a 405 Conquest at your place.
Man. Yeah, 405's here. I don't know how long it's going to stay here, but yeah, that thing's a beast, man. It's awesome. It's an animal. I haven't had a chance to run it yet, but one of our guys sold one already. Right now, it's out on a demo. It's massive. It's beautiful. It's got the quad 400 Mercs on it. She's something to see. It'd be an awesome boat. A lot of people want to go out to the middle grounds, around here. And what a platform to take that out and, all the creature comforts, but you got a huge cockpit, tons of fishability, live wells. It's a beautiful, beautiful boat. I can't wait to get on it.
Yeah, I like what they did too. They almost kind of implemented a lot of stuff that you'll see on like sport fishers and stuff like that. We're kind of by the transom in front of where the outboards are. You've got kind of like a sink area and a lot of stuff to do back there. It's all on YouTube and stuff like that. Or if you want to see it, just go to MarineMax in Clearwater. And I think if I'm correct, this one even it's got almost like a co-captain screen over there. They've got a second chart plotter.
It is. It does. I don't know the size of it. I know it's huge. It's massive. It looks like a TV screen. It just takes up the whole side there. It's awesome.
Little Netflix action going on, if you like.
So
before we get into the Women on Water section, Keith, we have 3 questions from last week that came in to the mailbox, our Boating Tips Live mailbox that we have at MarineMax, and maybe we can get to those first. So the first one was dropped on our page last week, and that was from Bob, and he said, "How large of a boat do you need for a getaway?"
You want to roll with it or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Doesn't matter. I've had 13 super sports go on trips with us, right? If it's say it's a trip down to South Seas, we talk about South Seas a lot, or to a resort, even though you can't stay on your boat, if your boat's big enough to handle the waters wherever you're going, you throw a suitcase in the boat and take off and go. That's the beautiful thing about Florida. We got all the intercoastal waterways. So, I mean, if the wind's blowing and the Gulf's choppy, the Atlantic's rough, we can always tuck in and run the inside. So, size of your boat's really not going to limit you. I mean, other than just kind of the reverse of what you're thinking. If you want to do a trip through the rivers or, go up the St. John's and down through, Howie in the Hills or through the Lake Eustis or Dora Canal, stuff like that, you're going to have a smaller boat, but doesn't really matter. Bahamas, yeah, they're going to put limits on you. You're not going to be, running over there. I'm sure next week, Anthony Amaro is going to be on here with us. Heck, who knows? He'll know the smallest boat that's run over there with the group.
Well, have you seen that YouTube video of the 13 Super Sport crossing the Bimini?
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not going to sink, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
Looks like we got some questions pouring in here. Joshua Daniel Anarelli, what is the belt? Well, at MarineMax St. Pete, you get the belt here if you're the top salesman a month. And last month, this is not my desk, but Justin, congrats. We miss you. Can't wait for you to get back from the Keys and come collect your prize. And thanks for letting me use your desk. So we're getting that belt next month, though.
I got a question for you, Nick. Are you getting questions pop up on the side of your computer, or is it just on the phone?
I'm not. I'm just getting it on my phone. So.
Yeah, they're not coming up on the side for whatever. Okay, I was just curious.
You got your phone on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on our platform, but yeah, that's a good point. I thought it was me.
Okay.
But then looks like we got another one here. This is one Steven called in after hours last week. Steven from Wisconsin said, tips for boating when it was so hot. I can only imagine how hot it is down there in Florida. That heat down there is no joke up there too. So, Keith, we had quite the heat wave here last week, didn't we?
It's been a hot summer the whole time.
I think I saw a heat wave or a heat index of 105, and it's funny. The first summer that I spent down here, and then I was still a dockhand and I was running around outside and stuff. I was like, man, what is wrong with me? I'm sweating all the time. Like I'm sweating from 6 a.m. until 8 o'clock at night, and then I realized that it's just that hot.
Yeah.
But what are some tips for you as far as kind of dealing with it out on the water?
Stay hydrated first and foremost, right? Drink lots and lots of water. You may be tempted to keep reaching in that cooler and grabbing those Miller Lights or Budweisers and all that stuff and thinking you're doing yourself a favor and staying hydrated, but it's actually doing the opposite. It's actually drying you out, and it's going to make you more thirsty. So you keep drinking, and then it's going to affect your judgment. So save those for once you get back. But water. Under Armour, the light ones, those things are really good, full of good, vitamins, no sugar and all that. But just stay hydrated. Just try to stay out of the sun. Sunscreen, just kind of all the common sense stuff.
It's when you stop sweating when you got a problem.
Yeah. And then, you get this 405 Conquest and you just go down in the air conditioning and, you don't worry about it.
A little AC, play a little Xbox, come out when the fish are biting, don't waste your time.
That's right.
But cover up too. I mean, I remember I spent so many summers up in Massachusetts, and I used to get away without, wearing sunscreen and stuff. And you don't need it. It's not that bad. Catch a nice tan. But man, especially if you're in Florida, it'll sneak up on you. Next thing you know, it doesn't matter how often you're out in the sun. But besides it being dangerous, you'll go a couple days without wearing sunscreen. You'll be paying for it for a whole week beyond just sunscreen or beyond just sunburn. You're talking full-blown sun poisoning at that point. Just cover up. Do yourself a favor. Cover up.
Yep. There's a lot of technology, all the new shirts and buffs and all the different stuff. I mean, I got one here that's just, happens to be, Simrad one, but just, what I've been wearing around today, running out here moving boats all day.
Yeah, double as a mask too.
Yep. What else you got? What's the other question?
Got Jennifer from Tampa. She's a a regular here on Boating Tips Live. Why does boating provide the perfect escape right now, given the circumstances of the world? So that's a good question.
Dude, and this is right. This is your passion right here. Go for it. I know what you're going to say.
So, I heard a coworker say last month, life is normal on a boat. And I don't know who here read my LinkedIn article, wrote an article on LinkedIn about it too. And everybody always says, don't be normal. Why do you want to be normal? Be extraordinary or whatever. But I think that all anybody wants right now is normalcy. We don't know if football is going to start again. We don't know what's going to happen with sports. Schools. Nobody really knows what's even happening with school going back. And I think that, and challenge me if I'm wrong, drop it in the comments here, guys. Boating is the only thing right now that looks exactly like it did a year ago. And by that, I mean, when you're out on the water, okay, and you're with the people that you're living with, your kids, your wife, your husband, whatever. And when you guys are all out there, that looks the same. It really does. When you're cruising along the intercoastal, the sun, there's still a sunset at night. There really is. The dolphins are still out there. There's the drinks are still cold, and you can still have a good time. And nothing's normal. Nothing's normal anymore. Birthday parties. They've got these weird drive-through birthday parties where everybody drives by and honks their horn like it's a mini Gasparilla of some sort. Weddings. I'm going through it right now. Everybody's wearing masks and social distancing at weddings, and people aren't traveling. It's very strange. Going to the grocery store, you need to walk in certain lines to go one way or another, and it's just everything is so different. And I think that the only thing right now that looks exactly the same as it did a year ago is when you're out on the water. And I think that's why you've seen a spike. I'm sure. I know it was on the news the other day here in Tampa, just with the spike in boat sales and stuff like that, and it's justified. It really is, and it makes sense. And it's. We're blessed to be in the industry, and we're blessed to be a part of it. We're even more so blessed to be a part of a 12-month season for the most part in this section of Florida. And I think that if you're not taking advantage of it, then what's this all about?
Exactly. This goes back, that whole thing, what you just said, that goes back to when Bill McGill founded this company. It was all about the family core, the family unit, spending time with your family. That's how he raised, Brent McGill and all his grandsons. They're out there skiing on the lakes with the nautiques and stuff. You know what I mean? And then so same thing now. You want to go fishing with your kids or your grandkids, or go out and hit the island. You've got the family unit. You're there, you're together, and it's making you spend more family time, because you're not having the soccer games, the football games, the baseball games. Kids aren't all over the place, so it's incredible right now what the boating industry is going through, and the people on the water, and, everybody waving and happy to be out there, and flags flying and stuff. It's really something great to be part of.
I know. The worst part is at the end of the day when you have to go back and, it starts all over again when the boat comes out of the water. But
you look forward to the next day back out on the water, right?
Yeah, that's
true. Clean the boat up. That hadn't changed either, right? You got to go home, you got to wash the boat, flush it out, and do all that. So,
and your friends still do this when you get back to the dock as you clean the boat.
Yep.
But hey, that's what it's all about. But all right, got Landon, our internet guru here. Oh, hold on, I got a call coming in on my iPhone. Can I call you later? All right. Got Landon. Question from an internet buddy about prepping for storms. This is a good one because we're obviously dealing with a little storm here. Storm scared. I normally tie up my boat on a floating dock, stern side in. So, all right, floating dock, stern in. Okay. My dock extends about 3/4 of the length of my boat with a piling at the end of the dock. Is it better to tie up stern side in or bow side in for a storm? I'm in a decently protected marina but want to be safe. I think it depends where you're at. I don't know how the tides are. I know I was talking to a boater up in New England where they have some serious tides, and he was telling me that I guess the river that he's on, he always needs to have his bow facing towards the flow of the river because of the debris that comes off and stuff like that. But in Florida, let's see. stern in. Do you think it makes a difference, Keith, or do you think it's on how you talk about it?
I'd probably want to have my bow facing out the way the direction where the waves or the wind and the current is going to be coming from. Just kind of like when you go to anchor up on a beach, right? You don't have depending on the weather, right? I mean, some people will run the bow up on the beach and beach the boat. But if you got waves coming in, it's a good way to swamp your boat. So I would think in a slip, you'd probably want to have the boat, facing out, facing the weather, But like you guys down there at St. Pete, you got like a hurricane hole there. You're protected, and those boats are in there, so you don't have an option on which way you do it. But there's never going to be enough momentum to do anything. So those boats are all pulled in with the sterns into the seawall. The bows are all facing out. So on that floating dock, that's what I would want to do too.
Well, I mean, right off the get-go, I mean, he's eliminating most of his problems by being on a floating dock.
Yep, definitely helps.
Let's say you're not on a floating dock. Obviously, we've dealt with our fair share of hurricanes around here. Keith, what are some things that you do, given that you're not going to have your boat hauled out, or what is it? Let's say that you're on a fixed dock, you're in a slip, you got pilots and stuff like that. I know what Chris and I used to do here, and what he still does, is you might put a couple extra lines on or whatever, maybe an extra, some precautions that you might take given that scenario of you're keeping your boat in the water. It is what it is. Back down the hatches. It's not going anywhere. What are some things that you might do with your boat in a slip?
Yep. So double up your lines. And one other thing too, just an interesting note: the 3-strand nylon lines. I didn't bring one up. That are kind of wrapped around. Those have got about a 15% stretch in it. So if the tide were to get really low or really high, that's going to stretch for you a little bit. The braided lines don't have any stretch to them. So those are going to come tight, and then eventually it gets to a point where they're just going to end up breaking without any stretch. So what you can do is if you're double tying, you can have one line, a little bit longer than the other. So when that one does start to stretch a little bit, then it's going to start relying on that other line to take up the tension or the slack, or take the slack out of it as it's going along. But double tie your lines. I recommend taking the canvas off. You don't want it doing more damage to your boat, when the canvas is blowing around and doing all that. If you do leave canvas up, there's this white shrink wrap tape. I could probably go around and tape the seams where the canvas meets the glass windows or your deck and all that stuff, just so you can keep any kind of air out of it. Get that air, keep it from going underneath and then ripping it up and doing you damage that way.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, everybody, we talk about different hurricane plans and stuff like that. I mean, it's not always an option. I get that, but I mean, like you're talking about, those little tips will go a long way, and more often than not, you'll be okay, and you can kind of just prepare for the worst. But, and yeah, like that tape is a good little tip there. If we have some time later, we'll go over another question also that I get a lot is, boats on lifts and exactly how to secure them also. That's a common question. But without further ado, what do you say, Keith? You want to move on to the main topic today?
Sure. So the main topic is the women on water classes and kind of what they are. And then also just in general, what other classes the MarineMax has to offer. So MarineMax there may be a little different throughout the country, but like here in Clearwater, on a typical women on water class, we'll do them like the second Wednesday of every month, and I'll try to limit it to 10 or 12 ladies. We'll go from like 9 in the morning till noon or 12:30, and it'll consist of an hour and a half or 2 hours inside the showroom here, going through safety gear, whether it's, starting out with your throw cushion, life jackets, flares, getting into all that stuff, tying lines on cleats, rules of the road, how these channel markers, work and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll take a little break. Then we'll head out back and we'll hop into a couple different boats and practice docking the boats, We'll take them out, go run them around. Hopefully there's some dolphins out there, put on a show. There usually is. But just close quarters handling of the boats and all that stuff. I try to keep it down to a reasonable number. That way it gives everybody enough time behind the wheel to where they can, get comfortable and run the boat. A lot of them have come back, 2-3 times. They'll get on a list, and if something opens up, if we got an extra spot open or something like that, Mallory will call them and, hey, we had a spot open up. You can come on in and, and do it again. But we also, it's open, for not only our customers, but their friends as well. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity for the ladies to get together and, learn how to operate their boat and go through the stuff and all that stuff. And then also bring their friends in. So then it's a great opportunity for you in sales. They walk into a dealership, they walk into the store, they get to see the people, they get to see the service department, see what all's going on. And then it's like, wow, this is, pretty cool. And then, God knows how many boats we've sold, just from the women on water classes, and then upgrades too. I had a guy bust through the front door here one day, go, Captain Keith, I don't know what you did, but we're buying a boat with a joystick now. And the boat's name is Joystick, and they live right over in the condos right over here. But in the class, his wife was in the class. We were out on a boat that had the joystick docking system, and she absolutely fell in love with it. She can run this 35-foot boat by herself running the joystick. And it's just, it's a great opportunity, and it's cool, man.
Well, it's funny because I mean, I don't know if it's some sort of common misconception that, the guy who drives the boat is, the women holds the dock lines. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to catch heat for this, but the wives are always better listeners, for one. Yep. They're not nearly as stubborn. And I'll tell you what, some of my best clients here that live in a marina, or not live in a marina, but their boat lives in a marina, on a 44 Aquila, they do a lot of entertaining on their boat. And I'll tell you exactly who's driving when they go out. He's partying, she's driving every single time. And when they come back in, she's the one docking the boat, and it's cool. And she's also, I mean, they've utilized so many time with the captain's hours and stuff like that. I mean, we talk about the private orientations that you and I do, when you buy a boat and stuff like that too, aside from the classes. I mean, just not to go off on a sales spiel here, but just the continuous education is what I think it's all about.
Yep, absolutely. We've got all the resources in the world here, and from the Go Boating kit that's on the boat, so you got all your gear, but then the captain training that you're going to get to make sure you can get the boat back into the slip, know how to anchor your boat, practice docking your boat, how to use the trim tabs, how to use the engine trim. I mean, all that stuff is what we do. And then you get the boat home and something's not making sense, or just you're not quite getting the feel for it. We're a phone call away. It may not be that day or that week, but we'll get you in the schedule, and we'll come back out and make sure that you're happy with your boat and comfortable driving it. And not only just the women too. I mean, that's the men. So that's a question too. You're like, what about men? What do you guys do for the men? Same thing, but they're kind of less apt to, Captain Keith, I really can't figure this thing out. You know what I mean? But you shouldn't feel that way, right? I mean, you started the same way as I did, right? You one time or other, we had zero experience. So, and that's the same boat everybody's been in.
I remember when I first got my interview with Joshua here at MarineMax in St. Pete, our general manager, and I was a captain. I am a captain at that time, but I didn't have any experience on his big boats. And I remember losing sleep the night before and thinking, man, what if I show up the next day and he calls my bluff and says, Nick, for your interview, I need you to move and dock one of these 44-foot Aquila power catamarans, and I'm going to completely fail and not get the job at MarineMax. And that obviously wasn't the case, and I eventually learned how to drive them. And then, now on those 44 Aquilas, even without a thruster, I mean, I can parallel park one of them, but I still can't parallel park my Chevy Silverado. You bump up in little increments, and you get nervous at first, you do, but then after you do it a few times, it's like driving a car. I mean, how nervous were you the first time that you put it in drive, and it's just a matter of doing it, and you do it and you do it and you do it, so you don't think about it, and that's what it's all about, is just being comfortable, and that's exactly what Women on Water teaches. That's exactly what Intro to Boating teaches. That's exactly what Captain Orientations teach, is for you to be comfortable on your boat, because there's nothing worse than you see these boats that never move because people are scared of them. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid here.
Yep. And speaking of nervous, right? It's something that's unknown, right? That you're getting into. So we've been doing this for 14 weeks, right? I know 14 weeks ago and one night, you didn't get any sleep that night before we did our first episode. Now it's like you wake up, what day is it? Monday? Oh, okay. We got to go do the show. No big deal, right?
Yeah.
So it's repetition, and it's just, you build your confidence up, and then you don't even think about it. It's like, I say, it's like a little kid when you first learn to ride a bike. You got the tricycle, then you got the bike with the training wheels. You make it down to the end of the driveway, then you go down to the end of the block, then the training wheels come off. Next thing you know, you're on your own going. It's the same way with people as they progress in, let's say, boat size, and or relying on their chart plotters and knowing how to use their chart plotters. So the getaways, see, everything morphs together, right? Women on Water, getaways, classes, service, everything. But you go on these getaway trips and you're with a group of people, and maybe you learn to use your chart plotter. Then you got your tracks down. And now, I've got customers that a year ago was their first boat, and now they're taking off and going wherever they want. They don't even think about it. I mean, they don't even look back. It's just go, go, go. So that's what we try to accomplish here.
Like, for instance, Debbie, Banjo Debbie, they call her, with her 15 Super Sport. She's not watching today. She'll probably hop on a little bit later. Man, I can't tell you how nervous she was when she first got her boat. Now she's the undisputed coolest person in her condo complex, and that's her whole identity, is that Boston Whaler, and that's cool.
Yep, she's come to a couple of the classes too.
Yeah, she'll hop on later. I'm sure she will. Got Brian tuning in with us. Brian, thanks for joining. Appreciate the questions you bring every single week. Got MarineMax fishing team. Now you're making me nervous. Yeah, well, you're looking at any sleep the night before you join Boating Tips Live with Captain Keith. It's a little surreal, I know. But that's Anthony from next week. We're going to be going over fishing, all things fishing.
Yep.
What are some other things we got here?
So we do get questions, right? So like, what about the guys, right? So we also do an intro to boating class, and that's for men and women, and it'll cover the same stuff that we do inside, right? I mean, safety gear, tying lines on cleats, teach how to tie a bowline, the VHF radio protocols and all that kind of stuff. But on that class, at least here, how it works, there's just too many people, and I mean, there might be 25, or I've had classes where I've had 60 or 70 people here, and you just can't get out on the boat. But we go through everything just like what we do in the Women on Water classes, as far as the inside technical stuff.
Cool. Yeah, you guys have a little better of a platform to do it there than we do here. I mean, we've tried different things. I know we did a couple events. We did one event there at Pasadena Yacht Country Club, like a joint event. That was a lot of fun. And especially this time of year in the air conditioning stuff. I mean, it's tough to do them outside.
Yep.
Got Julie coming in with a good question. Is it possible to dock a 30-foot by myself? Our boat has a covered flying bridge, and the wind blows it all around like crazy. I can't imagine driving or docking by myself in a wind. So there's certain things that you can do to make it that much easier. So for instance, one of the things that Captain Chris and Captain Brad taught me, you can use that wind to your advantage. I mean, you can use it to slow you down. I don't like being in situations where I necessarily am at the mercy of the wind, where the wind is pushing me and you're kind of trying to time things. I don't like that. I mean, especially if you're backing into a slip, don't freak out. Let it pin you up against the piling. You're not going to go anywhere. Once you're in, you can short tie a spring line or whatever, and you're not going to go anywhere. That's one of the tricks that I do when I'm docking a boat by myself. What do you say, Keith?
Yep, those are good tips. And try to avoid getting yourself broadside to the wind, right? So the worst situation you can be in is get the wind blowing you sideways, because then you don't have any control. Think about it like a fish swimming upstream or downstream. When they're, they got their nose into it, they can maneuver. You don't ever see them just getting pushed down the side, or a bear's going to reach out and grab them. So, and don't go sideways to it. And then if you've got the ability, you want to back into the wind or back into the current. So when your props are pulling you into the current, your bow is kind of like, think about where your props are as a flag pole, and then the bow is a flag, right? So as you're going in there, that bow is going to be sticking straight out. You don't even have to worry about that or look at it. You're looking back at your transom as you're backing into the slip, and that bow is going to come around with you. If you started out by going into the wind instead of against it, it's going to blow you right past around 180 degrees anyway, and then you're going to end up backing into the wind as well. So if you're pulling into a slip and the wind's at your bow, go ahead and before you even go into slip, do a 180, get yourself stopped, and then back up into the slip. On the MarineMax YouTube channels, there's all kinds of boating tips on there that I've done, and we kind of cover that in there, whether or not it's a single engine boat, a twin engine inboard boat, or a joystick boat. All three of those are all on there as far as backing into the wind and backing into the slip.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I don't know if you talked about this on your video, I couldn't wrap my head around how triple engine outboards work when you're backing in. When you're working the sticks, sometimes two will go in forward, sometimes one will go in reverse. How does that exactly work, Keith?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the next question here, so I missed what you were saying.
Triple engine boats with 3 engines. You got an odd number here, but you're still using the throttles. Okay, I was watching one of your YouTube videos the other night.
Right.
Sometimes 2 going forward, sometimes 1 goes in reverse. How does that work exactly?
So what I found is that if you push both throttles forward, all 3 engines are going to go forward. If you pull them both into reverse, all 3 are going to go into reverse. If you push the starboard one, the right one forward, and the port one into reverse, those are the only 2 engines that are actually moving. That center one stays in neutral, and it doesn't do anything until you engage them both in forward or both in reverse. That's using the sticks. Now, if you're using the joystick and it's trying to push itself sideways and all that, you can watch the RPMs, and they'll do their own things. They're all moving independently of each other. But when you go to the throttles, it's just going to be the outer engines, and that middle one staying still.
I didn't know that. Learn something new every day. If you can learn one new thing every single day, everybody would do just fine.
Yeah. So Susie's got a question here, or a kind of a statement question, that we put the cover on in anticipation of major rainfall. What wind speed should we be mindful to remove the cover before it blows off or does any damage to the boat? The boat sits on a lift.
That's a good question.
That's it. That's the double-edged sword, right? So majority of the times the storms curve off, right? So East Coast got tropical storm Isasis, hurricane Isasis, tropical storm, whatever, went up. So, but it never made landfall. So everybody ended up with a lot of rain over there, probably a lot less wind. That's just it. If you're going to leave the cover on, I would make sure it's fully secured, or like I said, before it gets wet or anything else, if you can get some good tape to put around there just so the wind can't get up underneath it and lift it, you can go that way. But it's kind of like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't on some of this stuff. It's more than likely, you're right, Susie, it's going to curve off and we're just going to get rain. Well, then your stuff's going to get wet, but then boats dry out pretty darn good.
Yeah, they'll get
rather than ripping up isinglass and having snap start, come loose and all that. So I mean, there's no set wind speed or anything like that. It's just, and if you're staying home and you're watching it, if you start to see it let loose, go out there and take it off.
I guess that'll bring us into our next point here. I was going to wait till the end for this, but Susie brings up that her boat's on a lift. What are some things that you can do for preventative precautions, for a storm coming in or something? We talked about what you're going to do in a slip earlier. I know we're getting a little off topic, but whatever. On a lift, what are some things that you recommend? I mean, I've used ratchet straps. I've heard different things from our dock master as far as leaving. Decides to slide back and forth, you're not going to be banging the boat. It's just going to be banging the I-beams. Of course, then if you have a storm surge coming through, then you might want to put that boat a little further in the air. But what are some things that you do for preventative precautions when you're on a lift?
If you're securing it for a storm, right, I'm going to raise it up as high as I can where the safely that the lift load's going to hold it. And then, like you say, with ratchet straps or dock lines, anything you can do to get them super tight and secure the boat and the lift to the pilings that are holding the I-beams up. What you don't want is the boat rocking and swinging. So if you can get that thing sprung in there, tight to where it's not going to move, then you're golden. And then, like you said about leaving the I-beam at the dock level, on a normal day, that's what most people do. You lift it up so that if you do get a little wind or something, it's not going to be smashing in there and breaking off planks of your dock, but it will keep the boat, from going sideways a little bit.
Good stuff. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Where do I find a women on water class? So, I mean, guilty. I really didn't even know about this before today either, but after further education, MarineMax does a pretty great job. You can all find it in one place. I believe it's under the events page on MarineMax.com, and it'll direct you towards your nearest store. So I'm sure MarineMax is going to put the link right. Let's see how we do this here. Right down there to where exactly you can find those. So, and of course it's going to be different at every location. I've even heard of some stores, Keith, doing virtual. I don't know if it's done through Zoom, women on water classes or intro boating recently.
Yep. We did one here a couple months ago, I guess. And I don't know, there was probably 25, 30 ladies, I think, in there. It went pretty good. It's awkward. It's weird. We're still all learning. It's just, it's something different. But yeah, so go to MarineMax.com. Call your sales guy up. Ask him, hey, when are you guys doing a class? I'm sure he'd love to hear from you, or she. Call the captains that delivered your boats, and just swing by your store. I mean, there's women on water classes, intro to boating classes. Some stores will do kids in boating classes. I saw Miami did one down there. It was really cool, man. I mean, they had the Coast Guard down there. They had like the fire department there. They did it up right. They did a bunch of different stuff for the kids. So there's always something going on.
Brian brought up a good point that the info is also on your app. I don't know if you guys have downloaded on your phone yet, but let me show you right now what it looks like. It's the MarineMax app. So, of course, everybody's making apps nowadays. I will say MarineMax did a really great job with developing this app, and especially I've got a few customers that, they're out of town. They don't exactly live where their boat stays and stuff like that, but it makes everybody's life so much easier just as far as everything's in one place, and it's really easy to use. It's not choppy or anything. If you own a boat, it's awesome because you can schedule anything service related on the app. Captain's time with Keith, call him up, and just like we were talking about, you can see exactly where those classes are too. Tell you everything you need to know, and it'll tell you exactly which store you're at. So looks like Fort Myers has one coming up, but it's full. But thanks, Brian. That's a good point.
Yep.
So I like it. What do we got going on next week, Keith? I think we made a little mistake last week and jumped the gun a little bit because we were a little too excited.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. So we're gonna have Anthony Armeo with us next week. kind of the creator of the MarineMax fishing team, the MarineMax fishing team page. It's on Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. He's over out of Pompano. Goes over to the Bahamas a lot, down to the Keys. He's got an awesome 38 Outrage that he runs out of there, that Ray Marines also sponsors all the electronics and stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool boat. You know, I mean, they do a lot of testing on the new features, new things that are coming out on these boats, whether it's Seakeeper or the outriggers or downriggers or electronics and all that. They'll put the boat, put their products through the paces on that boat there. So it's kind of cool, man. He gets his hands on the stuff first,
Yeah, I saw the boat at Ibex, and the one thing I remember is I think he's got a 24-inch Rain Marine screen on there.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that with the FLIR and stuff like that. And that boat's actually for sale too. So
yeah.
Cool.
I think that's what's on that 405 Conquest down there too. I mean, the screens are monster.
Yeah. I mean, did you remember when a Ray Marine E120 was like, man, look at that. What are you watching TV on that thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm excited for that episode, and I think Anthony's going to be great. So we're going to be talking all things fishing, East Coast fishing, West Coast fishing. What do those outriggers do? What do those downriggers do? You name it. We're going to be going over a little bit more in depth. So this is not going to be Fishing with Keith and Nick 101. This is going to be, let's call it MarineMax Fishing Team 102.
Right.
Be a little more advanced. So Keith, what do you say? You got anything else?
No, man, I think we've about covered it. Just like to thank everybody for joining us. You go on to Twitter, follow me at Captain Keith Lake. Follow MarineMax on Twitter at MarineMax. Instagram and YouTube, it's at MarineMax Online. And Facebook, it's MarineMax Leisure.
Cool. And we'll see you next Monday. If the sun comes up in the morning and the week starts, you know where to find Keith and I.
We'll be here at 3 o'clock.
Eastern.
PM.
Yeah. Bye, guys.